Hey, YouTube, I'm back. And my hat keeps coming back. Well, it's cold up here in the mountains. Peekaboo. Let me go ahead and toss that aside. Hey, Tiberian, what's going on? How you doing? You on your weekend? What day is today? Tuesday? Or does it start like tomorrow, right? I just remember you have a weekend in the middle of the week. I was doing some, The rain has begun? Oh, yeah. I haven't looked at weather at all. How's that hurricane going? Are you gonna have to go into work in the middle of a hurricane? I don't know how Florida works. So it wouldn't surprise me if the answer to that was yes. Yeah, this is your weekend? Well, that's good. You got plenty of time to prepare and patch up anything if you need to. I'm gonna be doing a bunch of side quests because there's like a ton to this game. It's also how you like expand the top level of some of your classes, and some of them are all right. I just did a couple like off stream that were tedious. I'm kind of glad I did them off stream. I mean, like Teach's was pretty good, but Xeon's, Looks like the hurricane is turning earlier than expected, so it might roll right over your city. Oh, it's turning like directly towards you guys. I hope it's okay. I know hurricanes get crazy, but I mean, like you were talking last time, you and the rest of Florida are pretty accustomed to them, right? But it will have lost more power since it'll travel over more land. Oh, yeah, that's good, that's good, that's good. Wait, did that actually die? Well, okay, this class does a ton of damage, but, like, sacrifices its own health. Yeah, that's good. That means you might not actually get as much damage. Like, I've had... This is still not exactly comparable. I've had tornadoes pass like directly over me, but as long as they're not on the ground, they're not really doing any damage. Which is honestly really cool, because then you can just kind of like go outside and look up and see some really, really wild weather. That's, you know, as long as it's not like hailing or you're completely rain blind.
Whatever happened to not being careless?
So I've already been through a lot of this region, but there's one class left I have to unlock. And it's somewhere around here. Yup, this is it.
What's this now?
I want that class.
Seriously?
These mecha axe warriors keep showing up.
Let's ruin theirs first.
It's going to rain for the next 2 to 3 days straight. Yeah, that can... I mean, I imagine that can do a lot more than short out power transformers, but that's a big side effect. These people are like 15 levels lower than the enemies we just fought. Yeah. Wind's knocking down branches, like blowing the roof off of places. You can get a lot of damage just from wind. And then if you get like a couple feet of rain on top of that, it can make recovering everything pretty difficult. No doubt. I don't think... I've seen like massive hail damage and massive tornado damage. I don't think I've ever seen them at the same time. No break. I was totally at the side though. There we go. Only class left to unlock. And I've avoided looking up anything about this outside of like, how the hell do I unlock this class? Where do I start? Right. Enough of these machine assassins, or not. I'm not strong enough to blow roofs off by the time they get this far in. Blow off shingles and cause leaks. Yeah, again, that'll
A tactical retreat.
that could be problematic with like all the wind and all the rain.
Lads! Yeah, I got
It
it.
gets to be a combo, right?
Senna, hit it where it hurts, will ya?
Our girl Senna. There we go. We can also blow water up into roof vents. Yeah, I've seen stuff like that happen before. With people's, like... Even if their roofs aren't blown off and they don't have, like, massive shingle damage, they'll just have, like, a bunch of water pooling in their ceilings. Big old massive storms like that. And, I mean, I've never experienced hurricanes. So I bet you that can
Who
be
is this girl?
even more
Where'd
rough
she come from?
down where you are.
For a soldier, she's awfully,
Yeah.
Closest
I know
I've
what you mean.
seen
Looks
to
like
it.
3 terms old. Way too
Well, like
young to be fighting on the
vicariously,
front
I've got a
lines.
buddy who lives down in Louisiana, so sometimes they get pelted, you know,
Not
by
to
hurricanes
derail
just the same.
convo, but are we sure she'll be okay? We pulled her out of the left, but is there anything
And there
else we
haven't
can
been
do?
any crazy tornadoes around here in a
I
while.
don't see any external injuries, but no signs of waking up either. Hard to tell either way.
Mom has a newer house with off-ridge vents. It's a lot easier to get water into those during a hurricane.
Don't
That seems
worry.
like a bad
She's
decision.
still alive. I'm sure, Mimi.
I mean, I'm certainly
You
certain
sure?
she didn't design or build the house.
Look, we can talk about her all
But-
day, or we can find her a doctor. I know which
I don't
one
know,
I'd
you'd think stuff
prefer.
would be built with that in mind, given the area.
All right, but she and her people did assault
Other
colony
countries do that
soldiers,
for, like,
so
earthquakes and
taking her
such.
to a colony seems like asking for trouble.
Then how about the city? They have medical facilities there.
Indeed, seems advisable.
What do we do about the Levnis?
Let's leave it for now. Transporting the girl should take priority.
I can carry her. Thanks, Anna. She'll be in good hands.
Do it, Senna!
Yeah, I'll make sure of it.
She seems like she's going to freeze to death. Here we go. Final initial character story.
Huh? Is that?
Supposed to be more difficult to get water into during normal storms? Oh, okay. So it's like better in some conditions, but maybe not better during a hurricane. Where do I go now? Where do we take...
Change of plans.
Talk with Hollis. Where's Hollis again? In the city. That's kind of good. I've got some stuff going on in the city. Do we really even want to take this lady back to the city, though? Like, it does nothing but get attacked. I have no idea who these machine assassins are. They look Kavesi, but they haven't been attached to any colonies I've seen so far. Either way, I hope you and your mom are safe during the hurricane. It kind of sounds like you think you're far enough in. Whoa, hello, lady. And I trust you know how to take precautions during all of that. Still, tornadoes are nasty around here, so I can only imagine that hurricanes are kind of the same, right? You do what you can, and then beyond that, it's just kind of hoping everything's all right. We knocked our would-be assassin so hard in the head, she's just passed out. We've sent so many people, new people here to the city. You still have empty homes? There's like 3 or 4 hero characters just hanging out in this place. Because after story events, they had nowhere else to go. Still, I really want this new character.
Ah, you're here. About the girl we transferred here. She's just woken up.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Although, I should say, she's a little,
Were there any complications?
no, nothing like that. Or at least nothing to complain to you about.
You're not making sense, and it's getting me antsy.
Well, he's not being very
Doctor
clear.
said she
He's
didn't
making
need
sense.
Any medical attention, and you know what? Why don't you just talk to her yourselves? Just bear in
I'd
mind,
like that.
she's
What the
still a
hell is
patient,
the deal
So take it easy on her, eh?
with these invisible machine assassins?
Seems at least they kept her safe. But now what?
Yeah.
It's the epic hero doctor's aid. I kinda like. I get you're being sarcastic, but
Let's talk to her
kinda.
first,
There's
like
only
you
the
said.
one hospital around
Right,
here, and they
she's
seem to be
recently
overworked the
injured. We probably
entire
shouldn't
game.
Crowd her.
You're right. If we're just asking questions, one person should be enough.
That sounds like a plan. So who'll go?
Surely it's Uni, right? She deals with injured people all the time. And she should be right at home.
Not a bad
Oh,
idea.
yeah. Cheers for volunteering me.
I'll go.
Yeah, I knew it.
You, Senna. Why the sudden impulse?
Well, she's the one who knocked her unconscious.
It's probably my fault she's like this.
It was really more like an accident, you know? There's no need for you to feel
It
responsible.
wasn't an accident. We swung that hammer
It's not
real
that
hard into her
exactly.
robo
It's more
chest.
like, if I don't do something,
Yeah, Senna, you're great.
I'll have a dirty
She doesn't even know the word, but she knows the feeling.
You've never heard that word out loud, have you?
Oh.
Hey, Raki. Yeah, it's definitely evening for me. Are you just
Well, then
waking
I'll
up?
leave the girl to you.
Good morning.
Is that all right, Senna?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Tiberian over here is dealing with
careful, though.
hurricane prep.
She might be meek now.
Hope
but
nothing
keep
like
in
that's
mind
going
she
down
and
where
her
you
mates
are.
Came after us.
We'll be right outside. If anything happens, just shout.
I can
Oh,
handle
Senna will be
myself,
fine.
Mimi. But thanks.
I will.
Senna will be fine. She just beat a robot into pieces.
Okay then. I'm going in.
I mean, calling it now, easiest call in the game so far. Senna inherits this class. Hello. Can you even speak? I've never seen anyone with horns like you before.
Hi. How are you feeling? Any pain? Can confirm faint sensation of pain in cranial region. However, operational efficiency of number 7 remains unaffected.
You've just been literally a unit, an offensive unit, and not a person, huh?
What? Okay. That's good. Actually, I'd like to apologize.
I don't know if she knows what apologies are.
Before, I didn't realize you were inside that thing, and
Hit you really, really, really hard.
are you okay?
I've encountered a wild VTuber.
No major issues detected.
She's dissociating. She's so introverted. Technical speak
Anyway.
only.
If it's all right with you, could you tell me something about yourself? The question lacks specificity. Number 7 cannot respond. Oh, I'm really sorry. I guess that was a
Who
bit wishy-washy.
are you?
Well, for starters then,
Peaceful morning on a work and busy day, but still peaceful. That's good. When will I complete the story of this game? I'm
you
in
a
the last
Canasta
chapter of the
soldier,
game, but I
or
have a
are you
lot
Batman?
of stuff I want to like come over and finish up. There's a ton of side stuff, and I've done some of it off screen. I already did 2 heroes side quests off screen, and one of them was pretty good
Kevis,
and had like
Agnes.
good backstory to the character, and the other one was like setting up farms for the colony they're in, and that was a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, that's right. You
So,
must know those, right?
Combat's great. The main story, great. Side quests are kind of all over the place. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are very typical side quests.
Affirmative. However, discrepancy was encountered while processing query.
I don't understand your
What do you
question.
mean?
Affiliation of number 7 does not match either of two options provided.
Doesn't match. Well, then that only leaves...
Who do you work for then?
Special Mobile Combat Unit under Direct Mobius Command.
Ah,
Alias Colony 0.
Whoa, you know about Mobius?
Affirmative.
working directly for them.
When you attacked us...
Why are you not, like, attacking us right now?
Colony 0 soldiers of numbers 7 and below were tasked with eradication of Ouroboros.
This seems like a bad idea. Especially considering
Whoa,
you failed and
that's
so did all of Mobius so
not
far.
great.
So this girl really is our enemy. I have to warn the others.
But at the same time, Cinna,
Although, is that really true?
yeah, look at her.
She did attack us, so why is she like this now?
It's also a very good question. She's outside of her mech, so she drops, like, offensive stances?
What you just told me, it sounded really important. Won't you get in trouble for saying it?
I was not ordered to silence on the matter.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
Clears that up.
Shoot, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Senna. What's yours?
I have no name.
Huh?
Number 7 does not possess information under the category name.
You don't have a name?
Are you literally a computer inside?
Wait. So this number 7 thing you've been saying all
If your
along?
friends saw this, they'd say so naive. I think it's more than naivety, right? She's been conditioned like a computer.
An individual
not a person.
identification number assigned to soldiers of Colony 0.
Like, there's clearly something really weird going on at her colony. They're not... She may not even think of herself as a person.
We do not belong to Kevis or Agnes. We are special assets. Publicly, we do not exist.
That's gotta be a problem for you being
Consequently,
publicly
records of personal
housed.
Information stored in growth modules are also expunged at the time of birth.
Yeah, okay, we've seen that before. Although that happens with everybody. No one remembers their previous lives. Even though it seems like they could, it just gets wiped as soon as you're
That's
born.
Crazy.
Shall I
Yours
consider
is-
the questioning to be over?
No, wait.
Your memory is
What you
just
just said.
extra wiped.
You don't think it's strange?
Cannot ascertain purpose of question. Requesting additional clarification.
What's your opinion on the matter?
I mean, for example, that name thing. A colony that calls people by a number. That's so dehumanizing.
It's big dehumanizing.
Don't you feel bad to be called like that? I mean, you're the same as us, after all.
Is she? I mean, she looks like she might be, but at the same time...
Cannot ascertain purpose of question.
Oh.
Requesting clarification.
This is gonna hit Senna kind of hard, yeah. She's been through some stuff.
Senna. Hey, you okay?
Did you learn anything?
Whoa.
You don't look so good.
It's a very
What
odd
happened,
story.
Senna? Mimi, I don't know what to do.
Hey, Senna. Everything's fine. Let's go somewhere we can talk. Is that all right?
It's pretty safe to say she wouldn't mind all of you being in that room at once. But... Number 7. We're really close to... Oh, it's this way. You're wondering how this is supposed to be an RPG if I aren't making any dialogue choices? Have you played a JRPG? Because, like, there's a couple of decades of JRPGs where you don't make any dialogue choices ever. It's extremely linear.
I'll draw up the rotor for...
I mean... Oh, God! No, wait. I thought for a second everybody was disconnected from, like, the furniture around the camp. Because that's happened once before and it looked super awkward. All of the seats were like 3 or 4 feet to the side of the people sitting on them, supposedly. I mean, it's 100% an RPG. There's no question there. You did, and that's why I don't consider them real RPGs? I don't know what to tell you in that case, because, like, the entire rest of the gaming world says you're wrong. There are definitely different types of RPGs, right? Like, a lot of Western RPGs have a lot more player choice, traditionally, whereas a lot of JRPGs are a lot more focused on just telling whatever story they have to tell. Very, like, straightforward. Like, Final Fantasies are RPGs, and most of them don't have a lot of dialogue choices or a lot of branching paths and things like that. But you're still inhabiting the role of whatever character or group of characters going through a story and plot. And you still have a big world to discover and systems to interact with. Like, role-playing game doesn't mean you have to have, like, a D&D pen and paper ton of freedom stuff. I love those type of games, right? Like, old Baldur's Gate, and Icewind Dale, I really liked those, and people still play up Planescape Torment, because, like, it's fantastic. And one of my favorite games, maybe ever, but definitely recently, has been Disco Elysium, which has, like, a lot of player choice. Sort of, though, because, yeah, I play tabletop RPGs, and have for a while. I play more Shadowrun than anything else, but I've played, like, D&D and, what's the very anime, fantasy one? Not Bessem, Exalted. Exalted is pretty cool, too. But so there's all different types of tabletop RPGs. Like, even a Baldur's Gate, a Planescape Torment, a Disco Elysium doesn't really capture tabletop RPG stuff. Nothing captures tabletop RPG stuff. No video game ever will. Because the players and the DM, or GM, whatever the system calls it, are also are building a story together. Like, a video game is a pre-built thing. Would you consider it a real RPG if your DM made all of your choices for you and you just rolled dice? Yeah. But, like, that's not what you do. I wouldn't consider that a tabletop RPG. But, like, a video game is not a tabletop RPG. That's like being annoyed at a comic because it's not a book. Or being annoyed at someone who keeps a diary because it's not an encyclopedia. Or vice versa. They're inherently different things. They're still RPGs. That's just like the general... That's the very broad category they fit in, right? There's a lot of different versions therein. Like, I wouldn't consider this a tactical RPG, but I love tactical RPGs, but I wouldn't mix the two. And even those, you have a lot of, like, personal choice. No, like, this game doesn't even really have dice rolls. It kind of does, because damage isn't static. This is just, like, it's a story, and you're gonna do some drawing? Cool, Raki, I didn't know you drew. Have fun with that. Enjoy. I need to do more of that. Well, but I think that's being... I don't mean to, like, be combative, but I think that's a little pedantic, right? Because even Metal Hellsinger, you could describe as, well, it's just a straightforward story. You don't have any agency or choice. Oh, but that's an FPS game. That's a rhythm FPS game. Sure, but, I mean, is it really when it's just this straightforward story? You're playing the role of the unknown. Is it an RPG? And people definitely stretch RPG too much sometimes. Like, I wouldn't call Zelda games an RPG, but there was a time when people definitely did, because you were playing the role of Link. Like, okay. But, no, you have a party that's going through a big story and a big crafted world, and there is still a lot of player choice in like how you go about it and how you build your party. And so RPGs are all like inspired by D&D, right? You have a party with different classes and skills or whatever you want to call those things in your game, different mechanics and such. Planescape is like that, even though you barely have to do much combat. Disco Elysium, like, you have 2 party members. You can get like a third or some other people to tag along sometimes. And there are lots of dice rolls, but there's no combat. They stretch it too much when they include JRPGs? But, I mean, JRPG, right? It's the same thing. It's not the same thing as a tabletop RPG. No one has ever said it's the same thing as a tabletop RPG, even with like Final Fantasy 1 or the first Dragon Quest or a lot of other things. They're like those games, but you don't have a player DM interaction in any video game. Which is why I would say that there's no video game that is a tabletop RPG. You've got like Tabletop Simulator, which you can kind of do that, but then you're doing that with a GM and other friends. But there is no video game that is a tabletop RPG. So I think making that distinction is kind of meaningless, because you have video games as RPGs, and then you have tabletop RPGs, which are OG and far more open and freeform, with a lot more player decision and back and forth storytelling between the player and the GM. But video games, the player doesn't get to tell a part of the story, even if you're making choices, right? Even if you have dozens and dozens of different choices, like Disco Elysium, or to only a slightly lesser extent, Planescape Torment, those are still all pre-scripted. You don't get to create new content like you do with a tabletop RPG, right? So they're inherently different things. So in my mind, like, all Final Fantasy games, all Dragon Quest games, those are still RPGs. All Disgaea, Makai Kingdom, those are all still RPGs. All the Xenogears, Saga, Blade. There are plenty that give you a way to affect your character's story and the worlds, though? Sure, but every single way that you could do that in any of those games is already predetermined. You just can't take every single path at the same time, right? Like, Mass Effect has, in any game like a Mass Effect, or Witcher is another really good example, probably a better example. You have, like, different alignments you can kind of push your character down, different paths that you can follow through the story, different ways to build your character mechanically. And so those all have RPG elements, right? But I would be a little hard-pressed to call Mass Effect like an RPG. It's limited but not eliminated like in JRPGs. They just focus differently, in my opinion. Like, I see what you're saying. I just kind of disagree with the terminology. I think JRPGs are RPGs, essentially. There's still a lot of, like, party-building mechanics and using your different abilities and different character choice in combat when it comes to fights. And technically, I could choose to do or not do various side quests and stuff like that, right? But I want to see more of the world, which is not a thing that I get to build back and forth with a GM, because there is no GM. Instead, there is a game. So I play the game, right? I don't know. I find it hard to say I couldn't call them RPGs. I get where you're coming from, but I think if I were to say, well, JRPGs aren't really RPGs, then I would say no video game is really an RPG. Not one, ever. Which is not a thing I agree with. There are tons of games from different genres that let you do that. I mean, you could you could say Metal Gear is like that, right? Because you can go hot and loud, or you can go super sneaky action the whole time in most of them. You could say the same thing about like Assassin's Creed, but I wouldn't call any of those RPGs either, right? So like something that's clearly based on D&D, and like even in an old D&D, you had like lots of books with pre-created stories, right? There's lots of like, you know, all of the Shadowrun and D&D stuff that I ever did was like the GM came up with a thing in their head based off of this pre-existing world, and then we fleshed more bits of it out depending on whatever adventure they wanted to tell, and then it was reactive in between players and GM. But there were also scenarios that were like completely written out to begin with, right? And so these are more limited. They're not tabletop RPGs by any means. They're not pen and paper RPGs. But I would definitely still call Planescape Torment, Disco Elysium, Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior, Xenoblade RPGs. And like, I'd call Witcher like an action RPG. There's plenty of those. Which would be distinguished from like a say like a Bayonetta or a Devil May Cry, which are more character action games, right? The focus is far more on what you can do in the action with the character, as opposed to it is on like dice rolls, and the story is fun, but mostly for setting. Whereas RPGs are more focused on the story and the characters than they are on a lot of other things. I think the distinction is kind of like saying, like, well, is a choose-your-own-adventure book still a book? Yeah, it's just different. Right? Sorry, just taking some water. I don't want to hear you, like, sound of my glass slamming on the table. It's kind of heavy. I don't know. I would definitely still consider stuff like this RPGs.
Wow. They did seem like more than regular
It's just got its own specific story to tell.
If they're palling around with Mobius, we can't really ignore them, I suppose.
We still have very little information. I think a more thorough investigation is in order.
Okay, but we're talking about a tiny third-termer here.
Senna, what do you think?
Huh?
What do I think about what? You're the one that spoke with her. What's your gut telling you?
Senna's gut is telling her that she's been abused.
I just asked questions and she just answered them.
Very coldly and matter-of-factly, like a computer answering queries.
Even though she attacked us, she doesn't seem hostile or violent. And when I spoke to her, she was literally just answering questions. It didn't feel like a conversation at all.
Yeah, it
She
felt like
looks
there
like
was
us,
barely a person there.
but is actually a whole different kind of being. That's how I felt. And then I got scared of her, and... Oh, I'm sorry, Senna.
Senna, give us your honest opinion. Do you?
I don't really know yet. That's
Whoops.
kind of why I'd like to try talking to her again, I think.
Yeah,
What
Senna
do you
is
mean?
intrigued but
You just
scared.
said you were scared of her.
I
Yeah.
am, it's true, but I want to make sure I got the right idea, and that's stronger than my fear. Not just about if she's an enemy, but also about who she actually is, how she thinks and feels.
Ah,
It's
I
very
get it.
similar to what
Need a bit more
Uni
time
went
for that,
through.
sure.
Except they were her
Right.
own memories, not somebody
I
else.
also want to say sorry for leaving without saying anything last time.
Something tells me she wasn't offended.
Okay then. If you're doing a house visit and apologizing at once, how about a little gift to grease the wheels?
Oh, Senna, you could bring her your onigiri.
Onigiri?
It's a portable Agnian snack made of packed boiled myth rice.
They're lovely and salty, especially the way Senna makes them. They really hit the spot after a long training session.
Huh? You can make food?
Oh, of course I can. Onigiri, at least.
She has one thing she
Oh,
can make.
Right. But we don't have any myth rice.
That sounds like a
Should have
collect
decent
quest.
reserves in Colony Lambda.
Hey, nice. No,
Lambda.
hang on. How'd you know that off the top of your head?
Commander Izzard likes them. The onigiri.
Well, that's just peachy then. Hope he doesn't mind sharing.
Probably not. Lambda's
Thanks,
pretty
you
well
guys.
off. We might even have some, unless it's not a thing you can pick up. Okay, well that's a quick drop off. What's myth rice? The game very much likes to invent new words for like similar things that exist in reality. I think you noticed that a couple of streams ago they were picking up like different types of fruits or pears or whatever, and they had odd labels. So it's just stuff that's, you know, it's part of the setting. It like kind of has normal stuff relative to reality, but different. And there is kind of an explanation for that. The worlds of Xenoblade were created like alongside a normal Earth. But you get little bits of it in Xenoblade 1 and 2 and 3. And less so 3 so far. But in 1, you get kind of the story or backstory of how the world was created and why it's so different from normal Earth. And so how you get this like parallel dimension fantasy world. Oh. I have dropped some frames. Oh no, there's definitely a problem with my connection now.
My hunger is stirred.
You're not wrong. I wasn't looking at that at all. It's It's okay now, but not great. YouTube isn't really throwing up any flags on my end, but my OBS is noting dropped frames for sure.
I should write this all down.
Let me just fix this.
So, Hurricane's not knocking out your connection yet. I'm in the red, I'm in the yellow, I'm in the green. I'm in the red, I'm in the orange, red, yellow, red. Oh, there's a big drop. Huh, let me see real quick. Can I simply...
Oh, my plumage is everywhere.
Let me try a speed test, which will definitely knock my connection a little bit, but I want to see what my ping looks like. So, big frame drop coming up right now. Oh no, my upload is being wonky again. That's a first. Let me do just a basic... Wow.
Hmm.